welcome to the first part of the Stencil Sunday series. Sorry my voice is not the best one, I got a cold. I think I have to blame the Ice Bucket Challenge. But I still wanted to do the video even though I'm sick because I'm really excited about this series. This series was made because I have been asked a few times, how do you create your stencil, how do you get it to stick to your paper, some things like that. And I really want to cover the basics, like making your own stencil with a silhouette, making your own stencil by hand, making your own stencil with die cutting machine, and also all the techniques that you can do with a stencil, like using paste, using inks, and some more. And if you have any questions, if you have any theme for stencils that you would like me to cover, please let me know in the comments so I can put that into that series. Okay, today's series or today's part will be on a comparison for material to create your stencil. And I'm not doing a voiceover because I think talking about materials is just sharing thoughts, and this is easier in real life, in what is real time. Yep. And I think I will switch to a voiceover when I create a card. Okay, the first thing is I would like to talk about the materials that can be used for stencils. I have always been using acetate for my stencils, and this is an acetate that is 1.2 millimeters thick. Sorry, we're in Germany, so I only know the metric system. I don't know what a millimeter is in USA. And I found a new material. This is this mylar foil, and it is intended to create stencils. It's for sprayers and something like that. And it says you can use it with your plotter, so like the silhouette, with a stencil burner, with your scissors, laser, or a cutter. So I really wanted to try this out, and this is what it looks like. It's kind of milky, and it's not as dirty. It's just 1.25 millimeters thick. So I tried this out in my silhouette yesterday for the first time, and I have to say that I had a hard time sticking it to my craft mat, to my cutter mat, although it's nearly new, and it curled up a few times. But I had a swirly background, so maybe this was the reason why. I will find out later for you. But today I would like to talk about the pros and cons of those. I think the sturdiness is great because it does not, it really holds a lot. You can do a lot with this, but I think that this gets folds very easy, and I think this doesn't. I don't want to show you now, but and now we have a fold here. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, like that. You can see it, and we do not have one here. So this is kind of better for if you move your stencils a lot, and if you peel it off your silhouette mat, it does not get crinkled that fast. So this is what I like about it. And what I also like about it is that it's pretty thin, so you do not have a hard time getting into all the areas. And I will try out now how these work with die cuts, with dies, with your die cutting machine, because I find that some dies do not work with the acetate very well because it starts warping then. And I will try out both now. I do not have a very popular machine. This is the Double Do. I think it's from a German company. And this is what I've been using for the last like 4 years. Yeah, 4 years. And it really does a good job. It's close to the Cuddlebuck. And it does not take much space. So this is what I love about it. Okay, I will be using this die by Simon Says Stamp because I think the background dies by Simon Says Stamp, or also by other companies, are perfect to create your own stencil. And I will run both of these materials through to see what happens. Yep, and you can see it did not cut through, but well, it did. You can get the circles out if you want to, but this is not the shape that we want for a stencil. So let's try if it works better with the Mylar. And this is what I expected. It does not warp that bad, but I maybe need to cut through again. It did not cut all the all the circles. So let's see now. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so I think this this material works better with your die cut machines. So if you want to create a stencil with your die cut machines, I would recommend this one. Okay, I lined this up 3 times, and I think this stencil is big enough for my use now. I will keep all of the plastic circles for my confetti for cake shaker cards. Now it's time to create a card with the stencil that we just created. This is a preview of the card that we're going to create. And I placed the stencil straight on top of a white card base, but masked off a diagonal line with some washi tape. And I also used the washi tape to make sure that the stencil would not slide around on my card. So I always make sure to adhere the stencil at least at the top and at the bottom, and sometimes, depends on what I'm doing, I also attach it on the sides. Then I took out 2 inks from Stencil Sunday. It's the Sea Glass ink and the Island Blue ink. So it's 2 shades of blue, one very light blue, the lightest one that I have, and one very bold and bright blue. I started with the light ones with the Sea Glass and covered the entire piece that was covered with the new stencil. And then I used the Island Blue to only add some shading to the bottom portion of that card base. My next step was to turn around the card and do the same thing again, making sure that I lined up the stencil so that I have 2 lines that are exactly parallel. I don't know if this is the right word. So I lined that up on my cutting mat, and I did the same again. The entire piece got a wash of light blue, and only on the corner of the card base there was some Island Blue to have some shading. And I think that the Stencil Sunday inks and the Hero Arts inks really blend very, very well. I think they blend even better than the distressed inks. The only thing that I find is that if your card base is not very thick, so you have a light cardstock for that, it might bleed through. Especially with stamping, it's not the problem if you apply the ink with your ink blending tool, because you do not have that much of ink. Okay, then I took out the Comfy stamp set from the Create a Smile Stamps and used the bathtub. And I think the bathtub is my favorite image in that set. And I also added the little bubbles that come with the set. There are 2 kinds of bubbles. The one that you can place on top of your bathtub, just like I did. And also some that you can use all over your card if you wanted to create a background. I used Copic markers to get some shading on the bathtub, and I used the BG32 and the B00 just to have a light shading, and then I used a colorless blender. This is not from Copic but from the Delta markers, and I just used that to fade it out a bit. I also used the B00 on the bubbles, and then I used some yellow tones to get a gold, some gold accents. I used the E27 first, so to have some brown shading, and then the Y26 to have it like a gold shade. I fuzzy cut that, and I left a little white border around it just to make it a little easier for me with the bubbles, because there's one bubble that's not attached to the others. So I decided to just go around the entire piece, leaving a white border. And then I attached that to the card front with some dimensional adhesive. And you can see my roll is not that big anymore, it gets smaller. And I also used the Relax stamp from that set and used some VersaFine ink to get a very good impression. To finish off the card, well, I thought something was missing. I could have left the card like this, but you know I always need some details, so I rounded the top corners and then I took out my glossy accents to put some of them on to the bubbles, to make the bubbles shine a little bit. And the last finishing touch that I added is I took out some sequins from Neat and Tangle. These are the Snow White, and I love the matte, the matte sequins that are not that shiny. And I used my do-it-yourself glue dots to attach them to the card front. And I like to have embellishments like that go on like a diagonal line, so like floating on the card. And I added some of that, and that finished the card for today. I hope you got inspired to create your own stencil with your dies, and I'm happy to see you next week for the next Stencil Sunday. Thanks so much for watching.